Hey adventurers, so today is going to be another book review. This is going to be for Brandon Sanderson's Secret Project number 3, and if you haven't read it and if you don't want to know anything about it before now, this is your opportunity to leave, because after this I'm going to be calling it by the title. So this is going to be for Yumi and the Nightmare Painter by Brandon Sanderson. This is a fantasy novel. It's a high fantasy novel, as most of his are. It's a Cosmere novel. It heavily has to do with art, and it's kind of a fantasy romance novel as well. So with that out of the way, I'd just quickly like to say, if you're liking what you're seeing from an Erudite adventure, we'd really appreciate it if you would like, comment, and subscribe. Okay, so Yumi and the Nightmare Painter is the third of Sanderson's Secret Projects. This book is set in his Cosmere universe, and though it does have quite a few references to other Cosmere works, it is a standalone. So when this book was first announced, I didn't really look that closely into it. I kind of wanted to go into these books as blindly as I could. I wanted to, obviously I'm not opposed to knowing the title of a book. That doesn't ever bother me. So I read the title, I read the inspirations, because oftentimes the inspirations are interesting to me. This one, the inspirations didn't affect me at all, because they were primarily various mangas and I haven't read those, so I didn't really care about that. And then the other inspiration, or the other thing that he would give with them, was a little non-spoilery description about what you can kind of expect from the story. And I'm pretty sure I did read that, because none of these other things would have told me enough to help me know if I would have enjoyed this book or not. But I had this idea from the very first time that he announced these books all the way till I read it, that this book was either going to be a book that worked just absolutely perfectly for me and I loved it, or one that really didn't work at all and I really didn't like it at all. But I didn't know which of those it was going to be, but I knew it wasn't going to be something in the middle. Let's get into the rest of this. So immediately off the bat, we have two extremely interesting and unique worlds, as Sanderson always does. One of these worlds is basically a modern city, but the energy that is used, rather than like electricity, it is called Heon, and it is essentially a pink and a teal bluish color, like a hot pink and a teal blue neon line. Like that's how I imagine it. I don't know if that's exactly right or not, but that's how I imagine it, and that's kind of what powers the city. That's also, for those of you who know the Cosmere, that is the manifestation of investiture. That is one of the ways that investiture is manifested on this planet. So we've got the Heon. There's not much else in the way of like brightness or life in the city. Obviously there's people, humans, that are living, but you can't really see the sun. You don't really have much brightness and light from the sky or anything like that. It's covered in a shroud, and it's just not. It's a modern city in that the technology is like modern day technology. They have TVs. They've got, I don't know if they had cell phones, but they had TVs type things. So maybe it's not completely modern. Maybe it's a couple 50, 80 years ago, something. I don't know. I really don't know that much about it. I don't remember now. But anyways, that's not important to the story. Let's continue going. The character in this world, so we're following two primary characters. The one character that is primarily in this world is what is called a nightmare painter. So his job is to go out at night to patrol the city. He's got a specific area that he patrols, and then if he sees a nightmare, which is a monster that is coming through the shroud into the city, he's supposed to paint that nightmare, and then that will keep it from being able to turn into a stable nightmare, which can then wreak havoc and cause lots of issues in the city. And then so he's basically like kind of like a police officer, except not for the people, but for the nightmares type thing. Our other world is that of a hot, dry, arid landscape where the ground is so hot that you really can't walk on it. The characters all wear these thick clogs that help them to walk on this super hot, the heat radiates from the ground type thing. Let's see, our character we follow here is basically like a priestess who's chosen to serve the spirits, and she's got lots of rituals and things that she has to go through in order to prepare her mind, to prepare her for properly serving the spirits, doing the next ritual, which is a rock building or a rock stacking ritual. Basically, she builds like cairns out of rocks and balances various rocks and everything, and it's a visual image that I find really cool, and I've seen pictures of this type of thing, and I've seen people doing this type of thing, and it's really cool when you see it. And using it as part of the world for this fantasy world, it was just really interesting and worked really well for me. So again, you've now seen the two kind of art, why the art is so important. We've got these rock stackers that are very important, that is its own form of art, and then we have the painter who is painting. Obviously painting is a form of art as well. So the rock sculptures that she's building is they're used to please and attract the spirits. So let's see, almost immediately though things go wrong with the world, as things usually do. Things go wrong and our characters end up in each other's places, and they're forced to learn and function in the new world that they've been forced into. I'm not really going to say more than that. That's kind of the end of the overview of the story, because I don't want to get into spoilers, and that's kind of where anything beyond that will kind of get into spoiler territory, and I don't want to do that. This story was just beautifully told, in my opinion, and I had so much fun listening to it. Obviously, I don't read ebooks, so I didn't read the ebook for this one, but I do listen to audiobooks, and Michael Kramer and Kate Redding did the audiobook narration on this one, and as always, they do a good job. Michael Kramer's not my favorite narrator, but he does a good job with Sanderson's stuff, and he's kind of the voice of Sanderson's stuff to me in many ways, but I do like Kate Redding as a narrator quite a bit. I haven't really looked much at the art in these books yet, again, because I didn't read the ebooks, and it is a choice that I have made to not look at the art until I receive the physical book to actually look at there. And so I haven't really looked at the art. I've seen a little bit from it. I've seen certain pieces of art, ones that Sanderson has shown or just other people have talked about or whatever. But what they did is, as they came upon those pieces of art in the narrative, the narrators would describe the piece of art that's there, and through that description and through the sheer amount of them that were there, I knew this was going to be something really special in terms of art, and from the few glimpses that I have seen of it, it's just absolutely gorgeous. So this one really doesn't have much in the way of a magic system. It does, there's definitely magic here, and it very much fits in line with the rest of the Cosmere, but it's just a magical world in many ways. There's a lot of connections to other Cosmere works, and the book is narrated by Hoyd, so it's really not that surprising. One of the things that I did notice and that I did think about, and I didn't write this down on my review, is just a thought that I've had in the back of my head, is basically this is the story that you would get if it almost made me think like Brandon Sanderson really liked the magic system from his Secret Project number 2, which is the Frugal Wizard's Handbook for Surviving Medieval England. He really liked that magic system, and so he's like, all right, well, how can I do that in the Cosmere? And that's basically what this one becomes, is that the magic system from Frugal Wizard only in a Cosmere setting. It's kind of what it reminded me of in some ways. You know what, I'll mention that. I counted 6 uses of undulate, or some variation on that word in this book, and I know Sanderson really likes to use that word, but it's just funny because I've caught at least 6 in Tress as well. I don't remember how many I caught in Frugal Wizard, but it's just something that I've decided to start counting when I come across them, and I find them in almost every other book as well. Continue on. My biggest gripe about this book, though, is the conclusion of the story. I didn't really like how it ended as much as how it could have, and many would argue should have ended. It's very in line with things that Sanderson likes to write, the tropes and things that he likes, but it's definitely not my preference, and I think it's not a lot of people's preference in this story. That being said, for a book that was essentially a fantasy romance, which is not a genre I reach for or have any desire to read really, this is probably my favorite thing I've read from Sanderson since Words of Radiance. That means both 2014, I think, when Words of Radiance was released, so anything after that I haven't enjoyed as much, as well as anything I have read since Words of Radiance, which there's been lots of things that I've read since Words of Radiance, and this is just my favorite of the things so far. And to me that's really cool, and it makes me happy that Sanderson, even in these secret projects that weren't meant to be anything super special, this one he wrote specifically for his wife, and he really, really wanted to tell the story for his wife. All the secret projects were to some degree, but this one was like the one that he really seemed to put the most work into, and it shows. To me, the story worked way better than I could have hoped, and it was definitely not on this one didn't work for me at all, and it wasn't in the middle. I really liked this story, and so I'm glad that that's the case. I didn't know how that was going to end up, but I'm glad that it ended up with me being happy with the story. So anyways, that is my review for Yumi and the Nightmare Painter, Secret Project number 3 from Brandon Sanderson. Thank you guys for watching an Erudite adventure. As you can see, I don't have the physical book yet at the time of filming this, but I have gotten my shipping notification, so it'll probably be here. I'm filming this on Saturday, Saturday the 21st, is it? 22nd? 22nd. And the book will probably be here Monday or Tuesday, or maybe Wednesday, but I suspect Tuesday is when it'll get here. Anyways, thank you guys for watching an Erudite adventure. We post videos every Monday and Thursday, and have our social medias linked in the description down below. We'll see you guys again soon. Stay well.